I am here with the one and only Ben Carr, aka CARRTOONS.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
How are you doing?
I'm wonderful, man. It's a really exciting week. The album just came out. We got the show starting tonight, so I can't complain, man.
Space Cadet, go stream it now. I need to say, first and foremost, you looked so freaking cool on the cover.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like, did you look at that? You're like, that's sick.
Well, that wasn't really supposed to be the cover or anything like that. I tried to make a couple other things that were the cover afterwards, and people were like, what about that picture that you showed me? So it was, just felt like the right move. I didn't tell that photographer I was going to even show up with a spacesuit that day. So it all just kind of worked out in this fortuitous way, and it was just meant to be, I think.
Yeah, it's really, really great cover, really good album, which we will talk about. I said before we recorded, I've been a fan of yours for a bit. Actually, the first time I heard of you actually was because I interviewed way back in the day Jack Lizard.
Oh, no way. Yeah, shout out to Jack. Yeah, of course.
I was working on a small music website with a few buddies, and I interviewed Jack Lizard. Like, it was probably like 6-7 years ago, maybe.
Oh,
like
man.
It was
one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Yeah,
beautiful guy.
I remember you guys working together. But then the first time I really heard your music was on Mac Ayers' album, where you were featured on "Never Let Me Go."
Yeah, sure.
Which is a great song. I love Mac Ayers. And that used to be one of my favorite songs, but it's a very sad boy song, and I'm now happily engaged. So I don't listen to it as much anymore. It doesn't hit the same, but
you gotta let that one go after a certain period of time.
Yeah, but that was my introduction to you. And I've been a fan for a while now. This new album is incredible. I'm a sucker for a nice groovy bass line. It's got the retro soul. It's got the hip hop. I was saying we share in common that we're both white hip hop nerds. So
yes, of course, representing the white nerd we're doing that thing.
How did that, your love for hip hop come about? Like, what were you listening to as a kid?
I listened to a lot of rock music first. Like, my entry to really loving music was through the alternative rock stations in my area that I was honestly calling in. I loved it so much. Loved Smashing Pumpkins and Blink-182 and the music of that time a lot.
Calling into the radio?
Yeah. I was a nerd, man. I mean, I still am. And then around 11, 12, I remember telling my older brother that I just didn't like hip hop and that I thought it was kind of whack. And he made me a CD that kind of changed my life in a lot of ways, when, in the mix CD era. And, the first track was The Roots Live, where, they're doing the drum solo and the scatting kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is really, this is the opposite of whatever I thought it was. Had the Far Side on it. Just a lot of classics, that are something that a classic, kid from the suburbs when he's 12 should be discovering. And, opened my mind up a lot to that kind of stuff. Honestly, never really thought it was something I would be able to play and execute as well, but just something I enjoyed a lot. And then once I got into college, started taking playing hip hop on upright bass and on electric bass a little bit more seriously, and started kind of putting together how to actually make that feel proper. And I've listened to it a lot. It was in my head first. So I wasn't trying to just be all right, I heard this today for the first time, let's try to play it. That's what I was listening to all of middle school and high school anyway. So just felt right to go in that direction. And
you went to school for music, right?
Yeah, I graduated from SUNY Purchase in Westchester. Great little conservatory music. Studied jazz mostly, just jazz performance, which is a degree that really exists.
There are a lot of degrees. It's you can get that degree.
You can really do that.
I don't know what you can do with some of those, but
you can really do that. And after I graduated, definitely was playing a lot of jazz gigs and stuff like that. That was more my scene. But I'd always made beats and always produced and stuff, so kind of went back to that later in life.
And you have a musical family, I know too, right? Your father played music.
Yeah, my dad still plays music. I just brought him up at a show the other day.
When you bring him up, what is he doing?
He plays violin. Yeah.
Nice.
So you can catch him on my tiny desk. The old guy in the back, that's Pops. Richard Carr, great violin player. Used to play a lot of gypsy jazz in the 80s. Went to Berkeley in the 70s and stuff. So I'm kind of following in his footsteps to a certain degree. And not my formal teacher growing up, but taught me a lot of great life lessons about the hang and other stuffs in music. And, me and my dad are still really close, and, music is our bond for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned he was up there with you for you've done 4. Is that accurate? You've done 4? I know one was you did one at home.
Yes.
with I forget who.
There's one at home, which was kind of how we got in the door with those producers, which was with me, Kiefer, the Count, and Kaylin Ellis, which is like kind of our super producer group, and we recreated the themes for a Tiny Desk, or the themes for NPR other shows.
Okay.
And that's kind of like they were excited about doing something where we did some remixes for them. That's kind of an obscure Tiny Desk, but you can go find that if you really want. And then, Bobby Carter, shout out to him, was a big fan and was just looking for a way to bring me in there, and did my cartoon set first. And then like a month later was there with Kiefer playing bass. And then a couple months later went back to do the LOX thing, and music directed that. That was like, took up a lot of my summer. Never even met those guys till the rehearsal. So it was just
that's crazy. Well, talking about being a white hip hop nerd, that was probably a cool one to check off the bucket list.
Jadakiss walks in the room, your heart starts fluttering a little bit for sure.
Yeah, he's probably one of my favorites from that era, like 90s to like early 2000s. Like it's like Jadakiss, Redman. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think what, like, I love Sean Price. That's a little later, but like Helter Skelter, I love too. Like those are probably like my three favorites.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I'd have to put Method Man in there myself.
And Method Man, yeah.
I've always preferred Method Man personally. Redman is really growing on me.
I'm a Jersey guy also, so I have to rep Redman as well.
Of course, that's respect.
But directing the LOX it was their Tiny Desk, right? You directed it. Yeah,
it was their Tiny Desk, and I mean, they really, I don't really know if they knew what to expect coming into it, but it turned out to be a really beautiful thing, and it like turned out to be an iconic performance for them. So I really was just trying to capture the energy from the verses in some way and turn that into whatever chemistry they had, turn that into a smaller ensemble, organic feeling thing, which is kind of what I do anyway. So
like when you're directing something like that, you said like you literally didn't meet them until rehearsals. Like, is it totally on you? Like, are you getting some direction from them via somebody else? Like, what exactly are you? What goes into that?
I was in touch with Technician, the DJ,
mm-hmm.
so he was familiar with what verses they would kind of want to do. Yeah, some stuff that may feel a little old for them. Like the first version of the set list, we certainly amended a little bit,
right,
based on stuff that they maybe just didn't want to do in that format or whatever. And the other thing was we couldn't play any covers. So that made it kind of difficult, actually, because a lot of the more iconic LOX things to me, especially like the Who Shot Ya thing and verses and stuff, that was what I wanted to play. So we couldn't really do exactly the version I wanted to do of it, but we definitely found something that worked.
I mean, that's cool that you had some level of say in the set list, though.
Of
like
course.
Just to even like pitch a set list for them is crazy, and to them to like trust you to do that is insane.
Well, it was one of those things where like nobody else was doing it, and it was like a week away. So and it seemed like
you didn't even know you were doing it till like
it wasn't confirmed till maybe 9 days.
Oh my
before.
God, were you excited or stressed?
Both.
Yeah,
it's one of those things, and I was frantically calling people to try to make it work as far as the band was concerned, and luckily, I've worked with Kiefer on a bunch of stuff, and we had already done both the Tiny Desks early that year. I said, "Want to do round 3? Let's do this."
Yeah, once you're in the door, like he's crushing it. Let's
just keep doing it. And we have a great working relationship. We're on tour all the time with different projects, and then Daru Jones playing drums was like just such a blessing for that. The fact that he was available was a miracle. If you don't know Daru, he plays drums with Jack White. Catch him on tour with like a DJ Premier, a Talib Kweli, he plays with everybody. And for him to be available on that day was magic. And, my friend Liasha, who I'd went to college with, and honestly, we've never even made music really. I've just been a fan for a long time. And when I decided that we were going to do that Lil' Kim song, I said, there's only one person I know that can do this. And it's Liasha. And if she's not available, we're not doing that song. And, messaged her on Instagram, or I had her old phone number and she didn't respond. But I was diligent.
Yeah.
And I still sent her a message on Instagram and be like, hey, just making sure I got your right number.
Sorry if I'm being annoying.
So sorry if I'm being aggressive. I know we haven't talked in a long time, but I feel like you'd really kill this. I feel like it would be great for everybody. And shout out to you, Liasha. Jadakiss has hired her for stuff since then. And, people were so many comments about her being the 4th member of the LOX. So she just took that and ran with it. And I was just lucky to be the white guy in the back.
Do you have So is there might be more of you working together with NPR on that stuff, or it's,
I mean, I hope so. I hope so. There's a couple other projects, you know, that I got cooking up that are different than what people have heard so far, that I think will be probably on Tiny Desk in the next couple of years.
All right, I'm gonna look for it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the journey and the birth of CARRTOONS, because you were in a band. I forget the name of the band, but you were in a band for a while, and then at some point you decided to start your own solo venture, and you decided to make this project and this build this world of CARRTOONS. Like, what was the genesis of that? Like, why'd you want to, you know, go off on your own? What was your like idea going into it, and is where you're at now kind of what you envisioned from the start?
Well, I'll say I didn't really want to go off on my own. The band kind of just broke up, as a lot of
I had no choice,
as a lot of bands do in your mid-20s.
Yeah, bands do what bands do.
You know, and we were guys that met in college mostly, and you know, things fizzle out the way they do, and we're all trying to find that next step when that dream project of yours doesn't really work out the way you imagined it to. And in that time, that's just when I started doing my own thing. I really, without any visions for where this is now, you know, really just CARRTOONS as a name hadn't spurted out yet. I actually released a project as Butterville before CARRTOONS.
Butterville?
Yeah.
I love people's old names. That's like my favorite thing to ask. What were your old names? People have the funniest ones. Why that? Why Butterville?
Well, it was kind of like a side band of sorts. But you know, I only did one of those, and then things started getting a little bit more hip hop feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and started to feel really good to do that to me. And I was cranking them out. You know, I was like, wow, this is easy and fun for me to make music like this, and in a way that I kind of haven't fully explored. And now I've like gone to jazz school. Like I can actually do this shit now. Like when I was, you know, in high school, I couldn't really play this kind of music. I couldn't like remake a sample. I couldn't, you know, take something where I'm like making a jazz song and then flipping it. Those were skills I just hadn't acquired yet. So, you know, just listening to a lot of podcasts in that time, trying to like get some inspiration, you know, just what were people doing before they did something great, you know, just trying. I remember hearing Jordan Peele, you know, talk on a podcast before he had written Get Out. He said, man, I'm working on a horror movie, and I thought that was the dopest shit. And then to see that all play out is, you know, I try to follow inspirational people in that way. And I felt like I just dosed myself up with a lot of inspirational type of stuff in that time, and just was cranking it out with just keep my head down, not worried about what people were thinking about it. Wasn't even posting on social media for years. Honestly, like I was making, you know, a couple hundred beats a year without posting any of it for 2-3 years. And then I started to be like, okay, this is getting crazy. Like I should probably start sharing this. And I had a huge back catalog, so that made sharing easy.
Right, yeah.
You know, and that was kind of my cheat code for many years. I didn't necessarily have to make something new every single day, because I had a bunch of stuff that I'd made that like I could just go back and finish or whatever.
I think I've talked to a few musicians about that. Like I think people nowadays, like younger artists especially, are so focused on like they're trying to, you know, you're competing with the internet and how fast everything is turning over. So then they don't give themselves time to, like what you're saying, kind of, you know, give yourself a sec, build the catalog, or, you know, get ahead, get everything ready to go, and give yourself time. So then once you're releasing or once you start doing something, now you're like, then you're consistent. But you're trying to be consistent in the moment. You're like always chasing something. It's totally difficult.
And in that time, I'm making every genre. No limits, you know. I don't even know what my thing is, but like everybody, I like all sorts of music.
Right.
My iPod back in the day was all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing. It's like the more crazy your thing was, the better. So yeah, I don't know. I always just wanted to make it all work, but eventually you find these lanes that actually really feel good and natural for you to make. Like, me making like EDM and, you know, or like, you know, 4 on the floor. I've certainly tried all that kind of stuff, just to see, like, maybe, because sometimes you have an intuitive nature for things that you don't even realize. So,
that's true. Yeah, you don't know until you go for it.
Yeah, and you work with other people that make other kinds of music, and all of a sudden one day you're like, all right, I'm making an Afrobeat song with David Banner today.
Right. Yeah.
But all of a sudden, who knows? You know, he doesn't feel like making hip hop.
All right.
So it depends on where you're at and what day. So I'm always trying to be open to that, but over time it's kind of narrowed down to a thing where, like, I'm like, I specialize in jazz music. soul music, and hip hop. Those are the 3 lanes I like excel in.
Yeah.
And I try to focus on things that are adjacent to those 3 things, basically.
Yeah. And I was saying before we recorded, it's like basically the 3 things I love all in one. So you're like making everything I want in one track.
Appreciate that.
Do you ever want to get on your Madlib shit? Like you said, you had the old name. Like, do you ever want to just like, I'm just gonna do some crazy weird like electronic project under some pseudonym, some other alias?
Well, definitely. Madlib is a huge inspiration. I would say I put him as like my number 1 producer of all time to a lot of people. Him and MF Doom, I would say, are kind of tied for that category. I just was into them before I found Jay Dilla, so it's always surprising to me. It's just
that is crazy.
Those were the things.
I don't know. That's not that. I don't know. Maybe from like coming from a producer, I guess like that might be considered crazy. I could see that. Yeah.
Right, but Madlib going a jazzy direction of sorts and learning to play instruments and getting quite good at them was always an inspiration. I would love that. And 2 of the projects that are going to come out next year are definitely jazz projects.
Cool.
That we're playing real instruments, recorded the tape, and there's definitely an idea to get Madlib to even do a remix of one of them.
Wow.
So those are definitely, that's the path I'm trying to go down for sure.
Nice.
And just kind of pay respect to the stuff I really love, those classic Blue Note kind of jazz records.
Right.
And he did that great collaboration with him that we've been really inspired by. So that's kind of a hint of some of the things to come.
Well, hopefully we're speaking that into existence right now.
Yeah.
But I actually just recently, like I knew of, obviously I'm a Madlib fan, and there was like a lot of the different aliases and different projects he did, like I was aware of, but I recently did a video like to try to cover all of it. And there were like 3 or 4 others. I was like, I didn't know about this one. Like there were so many. I was like, I can't believe he was doing all these. And like, I think the majority of people, like 99% of people, I don't even know all those things exist. Like he's like making up fake bands and stuff, like just him. It's crazy.
He's really just doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough people doing it for the love of the game. I think we're also focused on feedback.
Yes. How do you approach that? Like, are you...
my new record is honestly about this, about trying, because for a long time, my whole thing was just like getting out of my own way. And that's easier said than done in the age of social media.
Yeah.
Because then you start, for lack of a better term, you start getting up your own ass at a certain point when you're posting stuff all the time and you're getting feedback all the time. And it's a natural human thing to kind of like let it change a little bit of who you are and a little bit of the art you're making too. So I found myself getting a little caught up in that a couple years ago. And I found myself also making music that was designed to please people on social media. And the second I found myself doing that, I was like, I need to take a little bit of step back for the first time in a long time. I was telling people I made a song that was literally a song on another album, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, we're starting to get a little more formulaic than I'd like to be."
It's hard though, because that's what the whole like subconsciously it's doing to all of us. Because I do that. It's like everything I'm trying to do is like I'm competing against the algorithm. Yeah. But what the algorithm is, it's like trying to force you to make this and to appease everybody, and then it's like if you don't do that, well, then it doesn't perform. And I'm like, well, I want people to see this. So like, what am I left with? So it kind of like maybe intentionally, but it forces people down that path.
Yeah. We all like make these funny adjustments. So I was trying to explore the idea of what if I could get out of that completely. And the idea of being in a character, especially in a spacesuit, was a great way to do that, because then I'm kind of aloof. I'm not really too aware of all the stuff that's going on. Right. And so that was like a fun thing to kind of play off of. And, I felt like there was a natural tendency for not just myself, but other people to kind of be kind of jealous in the musical world. I certainly felt jealous in my early 20s of people that were already touring and just figured it out right away. And it seemed like their life was perfect. And I realized that maybe I was on the other side of that now, that I was living my dream. And that maybe that didn't feel good to everybody in the world, So, and exploring some of those feelings and just putting them into songs and, trying to, in the least like negative, like toxic way, but to explore that with love. But like, these are real things that I'm feeling and what other people are feeling. And I'm sure people will connect to that if I can actually get it out. And luckily to work with great writers, you know, people that I say stuff like this as a prompt, and then they'll turn it into an amazing song.
Yeah.
You know, certainly similar to the conversation me and Pale J had at the beginning of, you know, of the album. And he came back with that song fully written, you know, over an instrumental I had made.
So I want to ask about that. That's a great song, but I want to ask about just like in general. So with Space Cadet, when you're reaching out to these collaborators, I guess, how many of them were like, who was like, this was the first time you're working with them? And then when it's that situation, like, how do you decide who do you want to work with? How does that process work? How does a song come together? Is it like every song is just totally different? Or do you have a certain process, like, you know, you'll always lay a certain amount down and be like, hey, I just need you for this? Or like, how does that usually go?
It depends on who it is, you know. For friends that I work with all the time, I'll send maybe a few more ideas, like to a highlight, you know, who we text all the time just about
sorry to cut you off. Those two songs are incredible. I actually hadn't heard of Highly Supreme. I hadn't heard of them. Those are my two favorite songs. After that, I was like, I got to listen to this guy's music because these are best. I love those songs.
And he's just getting started,
good.
man. He's just getting started. He's really just starting to find his sound in a beautiful way. And we're hoping to do another project at some point of just some retro
those are
stuff.
so good. Thursday Disco and Labor of Love.
Yes.
Incredible.
Man, great songs.
Yeah,
I mean,
so good.
I feel good about saying that just because he did so much of it. And I feel connected to them as like a fan of him. But yeah, for somebody like him, you know, we tried a couple other songs too that didn't work out. That will maybe end up on other things too. And then, you know, somebody like a Fonte, I'm not trying to waste Fonte's time.
Talk about hip hop nerd again. That's a great one.
Yeah, you know, so I sent him with a very specific assignment.
Yeah.
You know, I said, this is an open verse. This is what the song is about.
Yeah.
You know, all that. So I cater to the situation. I cater to people's times and their availability as much as I can. And, you know, this was the most no's I've ever gotten on an album for sure. I was certainly reaching out to some pretty bold people just to see what would happen.
Yeah, you need a temperature check.
And well, I mean, that's true too. But my goal was to try to make an album that, and it's often my goal to put friends that I work with all the time that I've been working with for years and put them on a platform with these people that we grew up listening to or love or are fans of, and legitimizing not just myself, but people around me. And all of a sudden we're all kind of in the same world. And when these people meet in person, you know, at the show tonight, there's going to be a lot of new friendships built. I'm sure of it.
Nice. Had you worked with Fonte before this or no?
Yeah. Fonte is a friend for the last few years. He reached out during COVID. He was producing a great rapper named Lyric Jones, who I did a beat on her project. Actually, he did 2 beats on her project, I think. Super dope. And then also helped out with this dude, Darian Brockington, who sings with Little Brother Live, and he's on some of the tracks and stuff. Sometimes it's honestly him and not Fonte singing on some of those tracks. But Darian is a huge talent. So I'd helped kind of in the world of Fonte's record label and stuff that he was working on. So when he knew I was working on this, he said, "Hey man, well, now's the time. Let's tap in on something." So I was very blessed, you know, to have a hero actually be excited about working on something that I'm working on. And, you know, he reached out when I put out Saturday Morning during COVID, you know, and I couldn't believe that he had heard my music.
He's gone a little jazzy too, though, like over time.
Yeah. And he, you know, he loves like the Robert Glaspers of the world and stuff like that. So, and that's, you know, I'm kind of adjacent to those lanes in some ways. So, yeah, no, it's not an accident that we met. And, you know, I'm a fan of him in so many ways. I love his comedy. I love him on Questlove's podcast. He's just a really talented dude. So definitely, you know, of all the people that I was just really geeked on being on the album, he might be the number one.
That's crazy. Another just one that comes to mind that I've been a fan of for a long time, and it was not something I would have expected, but was cool. Jev.
Yeah,
I love Jev.
Yeah,
Jev is incredible. So I was stoked to see him on the album as well.
Super underrated, and I feel like he's starting to have his moment now. But I had only heard him through the Pale J track he had done about a year and a half ago, and we, you know, me and Jay had just started working together, so it popped up on my feed, and I was like, man, that guy would sound really great on my music, I think. And you know, just one of those right place at the right time things.
Yeah, I've been yelling for years now. I'm like, that he's incredible. I love his music.
Hell yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through the track list, trying to see because there's a lot of people. Ray Khalil, you've worked with a lot.
Mm-hmm. She's been on the last 4 albums.
Yep. So you, I guess, have a pretty tight relationship with her.
Yeah, Ray is the best. I really think she's the future in a lot of ways.
She had a big moment too, like with her last project.
Yeah, and I think the next one will be even bigger. You know, the cosign from Anderson .Paak is not nothing. You know,
yeah.
And she's opening the No Worries tour. They're in Brooklyn tonight. We were hoping that she would pop by the show, but I don't know if it's gonna work out because she's opening and playing with No Worries.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that's that's not a spoiler at this point. But yeah, Ray's a great friend, a great artist, and just somebody that's really true to themselves, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Doesn't waste any time, and when she's inspired, it's really special to be around. And a good amount of the recordings we had done for my albums were remote, but on her stuff recently, we've gotten in the room and like we've been making some magic. So
yeah, so is potential we'll see you on her project? I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely. I did Carpinteria on the last project with Freddie Gibbs.
That was my favorite song.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm very proud of. And Freddie, is one of my favorite rappers of all time.
Yeah.
So when I got that text with that recording of it, I listened to that shit about 20 times.
Right.
Couldn't believe that. And shout out to Corey Fonville from Butcher Brown playing drums on that.
I love Butcher Brown.
Yes.
Butcher Brown is so good.
Amazing band, and those, there's kind of like a family brewing, these people that I've all mentioned here all know each other. And most of them were hanging this week at this Jazzy Jeff retreat that I was mentioning. So, anybody that wasn't on tour was kind of there. So it's definitely a musical family that's growing and is alive and well.
Yeah, I'm not going to act like I'm like the jazz expert, but a handful of modern jazz artists and bands I listen to, and Butcher Brown is like, I love Butcher Brown.
Yes, that's intentional.
Yeah.
Because they could be playing just crazy stuff, but they know how to play for the people, and it's social, beautiful music, and like they're carrying on the jazz tradition the way it should be carried on, as far as I'm concerned.
And then you mentioned the Jazzy Jeff. Mm-hmm. So like what? Because you had him open the project on the intro.
Yes.
And so like what? Again, hip hop nerds. What was that like?
I mean, I got to go to his house, and there's an interlude there called Jeff's House, just because that's just me pressing record when he didn't know, and just him warming up on turntables, just him like messing around with a routine he's been working on, and as a a fan of hip hop, it's crazy to see somebody at that level scratch. There's just history in his hands, man. Yeah. It's crazy watching it in real life. And he's been a real champion of my music. He was playing a lot of my stuff on his Twitch stream during COVID. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Jeff knows who I am. This is insane. And we kind of talked. And last year I went to his playlist retreat for the first time, met, an amazing group of people. And then, he was like, I'm serious. I'm trying to help out with something. Like, let's make some music for real. And me and Kiefer went over to his house for a few days, recorded some other stuff that will probably come out at some point. And then I was like, but I am kind of here with an assignment. Like, I got this intro, I've been talking on all my records. I really would love for you to do something. He did that in one take, did the scratching part, maybe a couple takes, but the talking part in one. And I was like, that's it.
That's awesome.
We got it. He's a pro.
That's crazy. And then, so like, with him, we mentioned Fonte, a lot of like legends who of like the elder statesmen in the game, or people you looked up to that you've now gotten been fortunate enough to work with them or meet them, or they know who you are. Because has anyone given you any sort of advice or game or been like a mentor to you? Like, who are people that like might have given you something or helped you out in any way, or some word of wisdom?
The one that comes to mind, just because it was like 2 days ago, is a great producer, Jake One.
Oh, yeah, great producer.
He was at Jeff's house the other day, and we were chatting, speaking of like cool white guys in hip hop, he's like my dad now. He's like my uncle or something. And I always find myself asking him a lot of questions because I feel connected to a lot of the stuff that he did and is still doing. And, he gave me some great advice just about not saving tracks for like the artist that you think it's perfect for. Like, for him, Jay-Z was always like kind of the guy, like you're saving a beat for Jay-Z, and then like then the beat just like doesn't end up getting used.
Right. And after a certain amount of time, it might not,
Yeah, and then it loses. Then it loses like the thing. It's like not right anymore. So he's saying that Alchemist told him that he just needs to let it spray, and that's what I'm trying to do now. So I'm trying to get these songs out. I'm trying to finish some stuff. I'm not trying to wait anymore. I'm not trying to wait for the clout. I want the right. I just want people that are excited to work on music with me.
Yeah. Talk about also letting it spray. Like Alchemist definitely lives what he's preaching. Then that's what he's telling people.
Yeah, I believe that he's walking the walk. So I'm okay with him saying that.
That's funny. Two more collaborators I want to ask for. We should talk about all of them, but I want to talk about Cisco Swank, because that's like a young dude I've known about for a while. Like that's kind of what you're saying, which I think is cool. Like, putting a younger artist or people that are in your world, kind of getting them on the same platform as like, bigger legends, getting them a good look. Like and
he lived in the same building as Eric the Architect as a kid. So, and he's like 15, 20 years younger or something.
That's crazy.
Or maybe a little bit less than that, but he's definitely a different generation.
Yeah.
So, we all kind of grew up on Flatbush Zombies, and I imagine it meant even something different to him, knowing that like that. I couldn't believe when he told me that later, that like, he's like, bro, Eric's on the record. Like we used to live in the same building.
But do they know each other?
I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do now.
Right.
They're both New York legends in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, I love hearing stuff like that. And I love being the connector of great artists that should be working together in my eyes.
Right.
People like, this is just kind of a love letter to the people that I think should be connected in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
If I had a house party, this would be like pretty close to the guest list.
Right. Who was, you can not answer if you don't want to, who was like one person you really wanted to get on this project, but it didn't work out?
Common. Common was one we were trying to reach out to for a while. Earl Sweatshirt was another person that I was trying to reach out for a while. But those just didn't work out. So, and I don't have a personal relationship with those people.
Yeah.
And I found that when you don't have a personal relationship, the music suffers anyway, really. So it's harder to edit it. It's harder to make the kind of decisions you need to make in a musical situation, because you're a little bit afraid to to be honest sometimes, or whatever that situation is. So I think some of those were maybe a blessing in disguise, because all the people I got to work with were very open and, just did an amazing job at like expressing themselves and also communicating with me about the songs after we recorded them.
How much of the music are you writing, or like, I guess you said it changes by the person, but like, are you still doing most of the writing outside of like maybe a rapper's verse you might not be writing? But I
mean, honestly, I'm very hands off with lyric writing. I don't think there's any song on this album I wrote the lyrics to.
Really?
Yeah. I made up a lot of the concepts.
Right. Okay.
But no, I'm very hands off. I want people to feel like they have skin in the game. I want people to feel like they're expressing themselves. And sometimes when you write something fully for somebody, you take that out of it in a certain way, especially because it's telling my story, not theirs anymore. And I felt like these were a lot of universal themes, and we come up with a lot of similar stuff if I like just kind of told them what this is about. So this was one where I was very hands off. I was approaching it like I've been telling people, this is my Quincy record. I wanted to bring in just a ton of people and just let them do their thing, let them do what they do best, instead of trying to control everything. Like on a record like Homegrown a couple years ago, I'm playing basically every instrument, and I wrote most of the lyrics on that. Like I would say to about half of them. To like, Groceries, people are always surprised that I wrote the lyrics and all that to that. So there certainly are songs where I write the lyrics and all that. But on this one, it just felt like it was time to let other people shine. And, I posted on social media the other day, they're the real stars of this project, truly. And that's the way I like to make music, where, this is a spotlight for the other people to do well. I'm not a traditional, solo artist. I'm a producer, and I definitely want to follow in the footsteps of like a Kate Renata, people that are like letting other people shine through their music.
Right. I also like I like going through the credits and how it's very like particular on who's playing what. Like I don't know, I just like that you're giving like everybody's kind of getting the shine when I go through the album, like who's playing what instrument the whole time.
Well, it means a lot to people.
Yeah.
And I've been on the other side of that a good amount.
Right.
Where I was like, it would have been nice to like if somebody mentioned that I played like 7 instruments on this.
Right. Yeah.
Just produced by like doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. Like it seems silly, but like, I mean, I check the credits for a lot of songs, and you don't see everyone getting credited who probably worked on the song all the time like that.
And just get it even deeper than that. That kind of messes with people's money too.
Yes, that's true too.
You know, because then people try to collect on those things. They don't know who's playing stuff. I could be getting paid like 7 times on some of these songs,
Right.
and I'm unaccredited. So I try to be part of the solution,
Right.
with that, and doing my best to like be like, all right, I've seen some of these mistakes. Let's try to correct them. Let's try to do something good, and let's do our best to at least make people excited about the project when it comes out.
Yeah, I think that comes across, I think, in the way like the music is presented. Like I said, like when you see the credits, like I kind of get like that energy from you. Like it's a group effort. It's like you're giving everyone shine. You're not trying to make it. It's all about you. It's like it's about us. Yes. Putting out this body of work on it.
It's certainly not all about me, and I'm doing my best to contribute to music as a whole. Music is not me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm part of a much larger thing. So I think it's very naive to think like, okay, this is my album this week. A bunch of people got albums this week, but I'm just grateful for anybody to check it out and to be a small part of what people become a fan of over the next couple of years.
But check it out because it's really good. All right, a few more questions before we wrap it up. Besides for the DJ Jazzy Jeff stuff, are there any other particular like favorite moments from the creation of this album?
Working with Wiki was a real highlight. I'd never met him in person, and I've been a fan for a long time. So like getting to make music and, just smoke a ton of weed in a room and come up with that was super fun. Mm-hmm. I'm like singing some backgrounds on that in a rare form. One of my favorite beats I've ever made. And that was just a special moment to come up with that song. And Cascade is definitely one of the sleeper tracks on the album, I think.
Yeah.
And for real hip hop heads, I don't know. There's something really special about that one.
Yeah, I like that track a lot. The Eric track I liked a lot. What was the other rap one I was going to say I liked a lot? Oh, what was the other? Let me look. I don't want to not say it. Tightrope with Fonte Topaz. I love Topaz Jones. I know you've worked with him a bunch. I love Topaz Jones. Also, New Jersey.
Yes, one of New Jersey's finest, for sure. Topaz might be the most underrated rapper on the planet.
Yes, his last album is incredible. I've been waiting on him to put out another one.
Yes, and I've heard some glimpses of what he's been working on. It's as always genius. One of the people have reached out to me. I'm sure they've reached out to him just about how profound his writing is.
Yes,
and just always steps up to the plate. I've worked him. He's a very particular person. And I respect that a lot about him.
Yeah.
And it comes across in the writing. There's no wasted stuff. There's no like 2 bars that are kind of whack in there that like probably should rewrite. Like he rewrote them. Yeah. He's a very particular guy, and it's all very intentional. And shout out to Topaz.
Yeah, shout out to Topaz. So you have a pretty deep catalog at this point. And you have like Saturday Morning, Saturday Night. You said the Homegrown was the other one we mentioned. There's a lot more than that. Like, what was the moment where you first started to like really see momentum, or people started picking up like what you were doing? Like, when did things really start to take off for you?
I would say Saturday Morning is definitely the moment. I mean, we just talked about it like it was my first album, and it's certainly not.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's
I put out 5 projects before that, but that was the moment where that became my first album all of a sudden.
Right.
And all the other stuff, I was like, all right, let's just make sure that's like on Bandcamp, and like, we'll just treat this like it was our first real thing. You're
not the first person to do something like that.
Of course. I mean, I talk about it like it's my first album all the time, but it's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's just the first one that really worked and connected with people.
Yeah.
And where I was just going through some shit when I made that, and it turns out like you just got to kind of just take that stuff and put it in an honest way into your music. And for a while, I thought I could like escape that. I thought I could do it in a way that like didn't use so much of this or something.
Right. Yeah.
But you got to put it all in. You got to put it all in. You got to kind of not care so much. That was at a time where I'd almost given up on music completely.
What, really?
Yeah. I mean, entering my 30s.
Yeah,
stuff isn't working out. I was in my parents' house in that moment. I wrote almost all the songs for Saturday Morning in my parents' kitchen when I had to move in there for 6 weeks in between apartments, and it just felt like shit wasn't working out.
Yeah,
it just felt like I was a little bit of a disappointment to like, and I think a lot of people can relate to that.
I connect with this.
Yeah,
as a 31-year-old,
and it turns out a lot of people relate to that kind of thing. So instead of talking about how much I'm in love or whatever, like let's talk about that shit. Let's get into the nitty gritty of it. And once I started doing that, once I started being really honest about what it was, then the music started connecting.
Yeah. So I guess that was a big eye-opening moment. I think kind of opened the floodgates from there. Yeah.
Huge. And I think, right at the end of that record when Ray Khalil sent me Father, I had actually already finished the record. And then she sent that, and I was like, "Oh shit!
Never mind.
we got to do a re-sequence." And I remember playing it for my friend Julia Zivic, who sings in my live band. And we're both critical of music, and in a way, we're both like, it's got to be great for us to really love it. And 1 minute in, she says, "You're putting this on your album, right?" And I was like, "All right, I gotta finish this one. This is a really special one." And that song for me is a turning point. That was the first song I put out that people would reach out to me about all the time. And like had an emotional depth to it, and people became fans of me and Race separately and together around that time. And then it became clear to me right away that we were going to have to collaborate. More.
You're stuck with me now.
You're stuck with me now. I really thought I'd probably just produce more stuff for her, which I have. I've done a couple joints on the last couple albums, but we got a lot more music to make, man. We're just getting started.
Also, winning with your friends is nice.
Yeah.
You can do it alone, and sometimes that's what you got to do. But winning with your friends is great.
It's so much better. It's so much better. I would recommend to people, be careful about hiring your friends, but it depends on what field you're in. But try to put your friends in positions to win. That's more important than just like hiring your friends, quote unquote.
Right.
Put people in positions where they can win, and your people better than anybody.
Yeah. So right where you're at right now, is this where you envisioned it? And then what are you envisioning for yourself and Cartoons for the next whatever time frame you want to pick? I won't even pick one for you.
This isn't exactly what I envisioned for my career, but it's better, and I can't complain. I only really thought I'd be producing. I didn't really think solo artist records would take off in any sort of way. I thought these were leftovers for a while. This is just stuff I didn't finish, and we'll put it out some way or whatever. So I'm so grateful that I get to like have a career as a solo artist, and because it's been working, I plan on doing a lot more. I already started a new record, constantly working on stuff. Like I said, I got a couple like jazz adjacent records coming out next year, and I got a lot more work to do.
Good. I like to hear that as a fan. All right. Is there anything else we should cover that we didn't?
No, man. Just go listen to Space Cadet.
Go listen to Space Cadet.
Tell your friends. Go smoke some weed in the car to that. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, couldn't co-sign this harder. I like genuine. The first time I heard. Also, I love like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. The first second of every song, I go, like I'm almost like the Chris Pratt. I just said that in another interview that I did that, but I did the same thing with your songs. Like the first fucking note, I'm like, whoa. Like,
I have a 5-second rule with music for sure, and I try to make sure the songs on the records past that.
Yeah.
Like I know some people skim through records to see like, hey man, is this one I'm gonna come back to? And I used to listen to records like that as a kid, so Is this worth my time?
But people's time are limited. You're competing with like music content, like every like medium of media. You know what I mean? It's like like don't waste time.
There's no wasted seconds in the record, as far as I'm concerned.
There's not. Like literally listen to like the first second. I'm like, oh, I love this. Like I know I like it the second the record starts.
Oh man, that means a lot.
It's very good. Go listen to it. Where can people follow you?
You can follow me, Cartoons on Instagram and TikTok. 2 R's, 2 O's.
2 R's, 2 O's. And this will probably come out after his residency in New York, but I'm going to be there. He's going to crush it 3 days in New York. That's it.
Sir. Thank you so much
for having me. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for coming.